Hi, everyone. I'm so glad you're here today. This is going to be one of those heart to heart conversations, one of those days where we talk about the kind of spiritual manipulation that cuts deep when someone uses God or religion as their weapon, because I've lived through it. I know how disorienting it can be when someone quotes scripture with one breath and wounds you with the next. So today I want to talk about what happens when religious narcissists hide behind God. And if you've ever been in that situation with a partner, a parent, or a church community, then I want you to know you're not alone and you're not crazy. What you went through was real and it wasn't your fault. So let me start with a little of my story. For those who don't know, I'm Mocha Gypsy, a mystic, medium, and spiritual truth teller. My path into magic and energy work wasn't born out of curiosity, it came from survival. I was married to a man who wore religious like armor. He was a covert narcissist, charming on the outside, righteous in public, and cold as stone behind closed doors. He could quote scripture on command. He had a verse for every situation, especially when it helped him get his way. And one of his favorites, and I could still hear it, was God hates divorce. That was the line he used to trap me every time I felt ready to leave. And every time I reached that point where I couldn't take one more blow to my spirit, he'd remind me, you know, God hates divorce. You're breaking your covenant with him. And it worked for a long time because I was sincere in my faith and I wanted to do the right thing. But what I didn't realize at the time was that he wasn't serving God at all. He was serving himself and his own ego. He had built a throne for himself out of scripture, and I was expected to kneel before it. And he would always complain that I wouldn't submit and would never give him enough respect. And I think that's what a lot of religious narcissists do. They learn just enough theology to twist it into a tool of control. He used the Bible as both a mask and a leash. And whenever he failed, disappointed me or hurt me, and he often did, he'd talk about forgiveness. He believed that because he was saved, he could do whatever he wanted, and all he had to do was ask for forgiveness later. That once saved, always saved doctrine mindset was the limitless get out of jail free card. It meant that he could keep hurting people and still believe that heaven was his guaranteed destination. And when I didn't forgive him fast enough, I became the sinner. I became the one who was unchristian, unloving, and hard hearted. And isn't that something? The person who breaks your spirit gets to use your own faith against you. And so somehow you end up being the villain in the story. And that's what spiritual abuse looks like. It's not just about quoting verses, it's about twisting sacred truth until it serves one person's ego and their manipulations to control you. And my ex would use that tactic over and over. He'd do something cruel, lie, humiliate, neglect, then come to me quoting scripture about grace. You're supposed to forgive as Jesus forgives us. And he'd always say that. And I'd feel the guilt, start rising because deep down, I really did want to be a good person. I wanted to be the light in a dark world. But the thing is, light doesn't mean letting people walk all over you. Forgiveness doesn't mean access, and grace doesn't mean blindness. And it took me years to understand that. And what's wild is his mother was even worse than him. You know, she was the most bitter, spiteful Christian woman I've ever met, even more than my own. Always angry, always negative. She couldn't even smile for family photos. And she was proud of that misery, like it was proof of somehow being righteous and long suffering. She was for enduring being a martyr for her ungrateful family and children. And she actually told me once that she saw 5 shadow people following her around. 5. And honestly, it didn't surprise me. You can feel that darkness around her, and it was like she carried it proudly. And that's when I started realizing there's something deeper going on with people like that, right? From a spiritual perspective, narcissists, especially religious ones, are deeply disconnected souls. They've turned away from the true divine source of love. And when that happens, something else always fills that space. They become driven by lower forces, the energy of domination, greed, and self worship. Some may go as far as to say demons, okay? And they're addicted to power, to being right, to being adored. And because the universe is neutral, it gives us what we believe we deserve. Narcissists often appear to win because they walk around entitled, and the universe, in its neutrality, says, okay, if that's your belief, I'll reflect it. But what they're really aligning with isn't divine order. It's the shadow matrix, the system of this world that rewards manipulation, deceit, and material gain for the sake of it. That's why you'll often see narcissists rise quickly in worldly systems like politics, business, religion, entertainment. They're fluent in the language of illusion. Look at some of the high profile religious figures we've seen over the years. Okay, leaders who preach humility but live in mansions, and who talk about helping the poor but fly in private jets, who gather millions in the name of God but never seem to pour that love back into their crumbling communities around them. It's the same spirit, the same sickness, just with better lighting and music. They build empires on guilt and fear, and people keep feeding the system because they believe they're serving God, when really they're serving someone else's ego and the entities attached to them. And if you've ever been in a smaller version of that, maybe in your family, in your marriage, you've seen it up close. That moment when you realize this person isn't trying to live righteously, they're trying to rule, and you're in a micro cult, basically. And here's what I've come to understand through my healing and spiritual work. Religious narcissists, like all narcissists, know that something is wrong with them. They might not say it out loud, but deep down, they know. That's why they go to such extremes to hide it by presenting, this picture of holiness, devotion, and morality. If they truly believed they were pure, they wouldn't need to prove it 24/7. They wouldn't need to remind everyone how righteous they are. That obsession with appearing holy is actually proof of their inner corruption. They know that if people saw the truth, their cruelty, the manipulation, the lack of empathy, their image would crumble. So they hide behind scripture, hoping no one would ever look behind the curtain. But here's the spiritual irony: you can fool people, but you can't fake energy, and you can't fool God. Everything that's hidden, eventually comes to light. And I saw this play out firsthand in my own life. After years of enduring abuse and spiritual gaslighting, my ex tried to destroy me through the legal system. He used the same manipulative tactics, twisting stories, playing the victim, of course, performing righteousness for the judges and the lawyers. And for a while, it looked like he was winning. And I'll be honest, it was devastating to watch someone who had harmed me so deeply almost get away with it. And just because he could perform goodness, he almost did. But what I learned from that experience was powerful. In this world, narcissists may win battles, but they don't win the war. They don't win peace. You can't live a lie forever, and sooner or later, that energy collects its debt. Their world might look stable on the outside, but inside it's chaos. Their image has a head of gold and a feet of clay, because when you build your identity on lies, control, and false holiness, you never actually get to rest. And that's real punishment, their own emptiness. Now let's talk about you, the scapegoat, the truth teller, the empath, the holy rebel. You're probably one who's been blamed, shamed, or exiled for speaking up, the one who was told you were difficult or rebellious, when you were really just discerning. And I want you to know something: being scapegoated doesn't mean you're weak. It means you were strong enough to see the truth. The reason narcissists fight so hard to silence you is because your light threatens their illusion. You honestly expose their theater. And you're not crazy for feeling like there was something spiritual about the way they drained you. You are under spiritual attack, and what they couldn't destroy, they tried to corrupt through guilt and confusion. But now you know better. You see through it. And that's why I created the temple. It's my community for family outsiders, scapegoats, seekers, and spiritual wanderers, for those who've walked through the fire of narcissistic abuse and are ready to rise. Inside the Mocha Gypsy Magic Temple on School, we go deeper into healing, energetic protection, and empowerment. And for a limited time, I'm offering my course, How to Cut the Psychic Connection with a Narcissist, based on my book of the same name, completely free for members. It's not just about understanding what happened to you. It's about cutting the energetic cords and reclaiming your power and stepping back into your divine alignment. If what I've shared today, with you, if you felt a spiritual, if you felt the sting of spiritual manipulation, or you're still trying to recover from it, I invite you to join us, because healing doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in sacred community. And to sum it all up, religious narcissists might win the applause of the world, but they lose the only thing that truly matters: connection to divine love. You, on the other hand, are reclaiming it. You're walking away from false light into true light, and that's something no one can ever take away from you. So don't let the illusion of their success fool you. Everything that glitters in the shadow world eventually turns to dust. But truth endures. And you, beautiful souls, you are the truth. And if you'd like to continue this journey and connect with others who truly get you, visit Mocha Gypsy Magic Temple on School. And I'm going to put the link in the description or in the comments. Okay, and you'll find the free course waiting for you there, and a family of seekers and healers walking beside you. Okay, so let me see if there's anyone in the comments. If anyone have any questions before I get off of here, let me just see. Let's see. I'm just going through here. Oh, dang, it's not okay. Yeah, narcissistic abuse is not okay, but especially religious narcissistic abuse, because that is truly an attack on your spirit to the core. Okay, Hambo, Jews, Christians, and Muslims worship the same God, and it shows. Hambo, if you're still around, I actually agree with you, but with one caveat. I would say with Christians, it's the First Testament God. That is the same the same entity, the same being. Second Testament God in the Christian Bible is completely different than the first. That would be a whole nother lecture altogether. But the First Testament God is bloody and vengeful, and it's not in Gnostic Christian beliefs and other traditions. That's not the same God of the loving, peaceful Jesus, the one who's Jesus' real dad. That's the Second Testament. So I half agree with you. All right. So if we have any other questions or no other comments, let me just wait. All right, guys. Well, I'll be on again either tonight or tomorrow. And take care, everyone. Be blessed. All right.